Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and in this follow along, I'm going to show you env0, which is an alternative to Terraform Cloud in that it allows you to automate your infrastructure like a GitOps workflow, but it doesn't just work with Terraform. It works with Terragrunt, Pulumi, CloudFormation, and other related IAC frameworks. So here I am on the env0 website, and what we're going to do is create ourselves a new account. So we can go up to free trial, login. It's the same thing. I'm going to log in because that's what I prefer to press here. And we'll have some options here. The only way to connect is through an IPD. And so I find GitHub is the easiest one to set up. It doesn't matter which one you set up because when we do get into the wizard, it will allow us to set up our different version control systems like GitHub or Bitbucket or things like that. But I'm going to choose GitHub. And I actually created a new GitHub account just for this. So I'm going to have to switch out to another account. So I'm going to just click back here. And I'm going to log out of my GitHub. Yes, I want to sign out. And we'll go back here and I'm going to click on GitHub here. And so I'm using Andrew at teacherseat.com. And I'm going to just put my password in here. And we will authorize env0. And that will help us getting set up with the startup account. So before we proceed with this, we do need a repository of some basic code because the wizard or the setup wizard here wants us to set up a workflow. So what I'll do is I'll go to our GitHub account here. I'm going to make a new repository and I'm going to call this repository env0 basics. And this repository is going to be private. The code is just Terraform, so we don't have to really worry about any .gitignore there. And I'm going to add a README file so we have it as a convenience, and we'll go ahead and create that repository. So the next thing we'll want to do is add some Terraform code. And the easiest way I find it is to use Git Pod. If you've never heard of Git Pod, it's a cloud developer environment, and they are very easy to spin up. There's a very generous free tier. And I actually have the Chrome extension installed, so I have this button. But if you don't have that Chrome extension installed, all you got to do is append this https://gitpod.io/pound to the URL of your domain, and that will launch Gitpod. So this account has never used Gitpod before, so we'll see what that looks like doing it for the first time. And all we'll do is say continue with GitHub. We'll authorize it. And that's all it really takes to set up your Gitpod. We're of course going to choose VS Code browser. You can see it integrates with a few other things. We'll go ahead and hit continue. And it's saying that the repository is not found. That's okay. We'll go ahead and grant that access and we'll authorize Gitpod.io. And now we just need to wait for the environment to launch. It doesn't take too long here. So there it is. It was very, very quick. And I'm just going to go and change a couple things in here. I prefer a darker theme, so I'm going to go to the top here and maybe we'll choose Abyss. And so that's a little bit easier on the eyes, I think. And we'll bump up some fonts here so it's a little bit easier for you to read what I'm doing here. So I'm going to put this to 22 and I'm just going to type in font up here. And we'll make our way over to terminal and we'll also bump that up to 22. And so that should be a lot easier to work with. So another few things that we'll want to have set up in our environment is we'll want the Terraform CLI would be a good thing to have around. We might not need to use it, but I want to have it there anyway. And maybe the AWS CLI and some other things. So what we'll do is type in GP for Git Pod Init. And what that'll do is just create a .gitpod YAML file. And we are going to set up some new stuff. So the first thing I want to have is Terraform. So I'm just going to go here and just, oh, and you know what? I really like Vim. So I'm just going to go install Vim so I have easier keys. If you don't use Vim, don't install this. This is just for me to make my life a little bit easier because I'm so used to using a Vim keyboard. But I'm going to go ahead and install that there. And yeah, now I can navigate pretty easy. So the first one I'm going to want is Terraform. I'm just putting a pipe there because I'm going to have more stuff. And we'll take that out there. The next thing will be the AWS CLI because in this example, we'll use AWS. And I want some VS Code extensions here that I think are going to make things a lot easier for us. The first is going to be, I got to spell extensions correctly here, but the first will be Terraform. So we'll do hashicorp.terraform. And all I'm doing here is, if you were to type Terraform here on the left-hand side, and you were to look for HashiCorp's Terraform, I believe it's this one here. All we're doing is we're just adding it to the Git Pod YAML file. So if I like click that, that would also add it. I'm just gonna try that again here. Anyway, it's already added, so it's not gonna add it twice, but that's all it's doing. And another thing I'd like to have is the Amazon Web Services toolkit. It's just good things to have set up. Okay, and I think that's correct. I'm just going to double check here. Amazon Web Services.aws.toolkit VS Code. Great. And so we're going to want to get the AWS CLI. So I'm going to just type in AWS CLI install Ubuntu because more or less this is running either Ubuntu or Debian. I can't remember, but the instructions will work either way. We'll go down to Linux here. And so we're pretty much just grabbing these 3 lines here and we're going to paste them on in here. And we'll indent them here as such. And a couple things I want to do is just cd out of the workspace because I don't want this to install in the current location. I want it to install outside of it. I'm just going to put a environment variable here called Thea, workspace root. This has to do with the environment. If I type in env grep Thea, it's just showing that the current path is this address. So we're installing outside of the workspace directory and then going back in here. But this is going to set up the AWS CLI for Terraform, very similar. So we'll type in Terraform CLI. And we're just looking for the install. So I'll go back here and type in install. And I'm looking for the Linux installation. So compile from source. I mean, I want the binary if possible. So find the appropriate package for your system. So we'll go here, we'll go to Linux, and here we can see Debian and Ubuntu. So these are the 3 lines here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those very quickly. It looks like they've actually shortened that up, so that's really nice. And we'll go back over to our Git pod here. And I'm going to just paste that on in here. And I'm just double checking what it looks like here because it looks slightly different from what I'm used to, but it looks like they've just shortened it to 3 lines, which is not a big deal. And so these are the 2 things that we want to have set up. So that's that. I mean, we could go ahead and add some code. None of this is going to work until we restart environment. We'll go here and we'll make a new file. And I'm going to call this file, let me just double check. Sorry, main.tf. I don't know why I was forgetting that, but we'll call that main.tf. And so there's a few things we want to set up here. So first I'm going to just type in Terraform and we want to have a provider. So I'm going to say required providers. And in this case, it's going to be AWS. The source is going to be HashiCorp. Of course, you don't have to type this all out. You can grab it from the Terraform registry page. But this is what I'm going to do here. Actually, I'm going to leave the version out because I want to use the latest version. And then down below here, we'll specify provider. So this will be AWS. And the region here is going to be US East 1. And then the locals here are going to be project name, Andrew. And then here we will specify a resource. So I want to provision AWS instance. I just want to keep this really simple for our example. So we'll type in AMI, and I think we'll hard code an AMI value. We'll go grab the value from AWS here. For the instance type, we're going to stick with a T2 micro. T3 micros are fine as well, but I'm just going to go with T2 micro. Under here, we're going to set some tags, and we'll say name equals my server. And then down below here, we'll have the output of the public IP address. We'll just say value here, AWS instance dot my server. And if you're wondering why we have awesome autocompletion, it's because we installed well, actually, we didn't install the Terraform extension yet. I guess it's just smart that way. So this is the basic file that we want to have. Very, very simple. And so what we'll do is go ahead and commit this. So we'll say initial code. And we will sync the changes. We'll say OK. I'm going to go ahead and just do a git push. And then what I'll do is go back over here and just confirm that those changes have committed. And I didn't mean to do that. Actually, I think I had the link there before. I just want to go ahead and refresh here. I just want to see those files are there. So they are committed. That's great. So I'm going to close this environment. I'm going to reopen it. So we'll just click the Git Pod button again, or you'll have to put the URL on the top if you need it. And we're going to create a new workspace because we want it to take effect with those, all that stuff we set up the Git Pod YAML file. So it'll set up our environment, have Terraform installed, the AWS CLI installed. If it fails, we'll have to correct it here. Not a big deal. We are going to go and log into an AWS account while we are waiting here. This doesn't usually take that long, but that one looks like it passed. That one looks like it passed. I'm just going to type in Terraform here. And for this one, I'm going to type in AWS here. Great. And so they're both installed. No problems there. I'm going to sign into an account. And for this, I'm going to go to my developer's account for this. Just give me a moment. I'm going to go grab my password. And I just logged in there. I just put my password in. So I'm logged into my account. And what we're going to need are some credentials in order for us to, work with Terraform here. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to IAM. And from there, I'm going to create a new user. And I already have a user down here. So I'm going to blow it away and make a new one. So I'll go ahead and delete that one. And I'm going to add a new user. And I'm going to call this one env0 machine user. I indicate it as the machine user because it's just all it does is give us programmatic access to deploy. Very common thing. We are going to want to create a new group here. As you can see, I already have one. So all you have to do is go create a new group here, call it env0, give it administrator access, and that will be the group that we have. I'm just going to go ahead and checkbox mine because I already have it. We're going to leave tags alone. We're going to go next. We're going to create this user. And that's going to provide us an access key and access secret. So now we need to go ahead and set our environment variables here. And the easiest way to do that is just type in AWS envars. I always forget what they are, so I always have to look it up. And down below, these are the ones that we want to set. So I'm just going to copy these. These are obviously not the correct ones, but we will get the correct ones here in a moment. And we're going to go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to go paste these 3 lines in here. And this is for exporting. We need this to take effect right away, but we're also going to set the Git Pod way so that it persists if we restart this environment for any reason. I'm going to change this to US East 1, and we'll go back here and we'll grab our access key ID. And I like to do double quotations just in case. Sometimes there are issues, like if you have a / or something that will mess up. Not in this case, but it's just a good habit to do the double quotations when you can, especially with credentials. I suppose we can do it in this one. Again, optional, you don't have to do it. And I'm going to just copy this below here, and I'm just going to change this to GPENV. So what this will do, if I set this value here, it will set it for the next time that we restart this machine. But if I check and see if this is here, there's nothing set. So that's the reason why there's 2 sets here. We'll go and paste this in. We'll go and paste this in. We'll go grab all of that. We'll say paste. And so now if I do grep AWS, we should have all those 3 values. It's not a big deal that I'm showing you my environment variables or these programmatic keys, because I'll delete that before we publish this. We have to do, I want to do env pipe grep AWS. Okay, so they are set. So now if we type in AWS, I'm trying to think of what the sanity one, it's like STS or something. Just let me check for 2 seconds. All right, so I used to use like AWS S3LS, like to list out buckets, but not everyone has buckets, so I've changed it to get caller identity. And so that will just tell us the identity of who we are right now. So this means that our AWS CLI is working, the credentials are properly set. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to fetch this information about the user, the account, and the ARN for the user. So that is good. So the next thing, what we'll need to do is actually start setting up our stuff. So if we go back over to here, we'll hit get started. And I'm assuming that my script's going to work. It's such a simple script. I would be very surprised if it did not work. We'll go back over here. Actually, before we do that, let's commit our changes if there are any. There are no changes, so we're fine. We'll go back over here and we need to set up a new organization. I'm going to call this M0 Playground. You can add an image if you want, description, logo. I'm going to go ahead and just go do that. And we'll just give it a moment here. And you see we have a few options. So Terraform, Terragrunt, Pulumi, Kubernetes, CloudFormation. And it can do more than just this because it has custom scripts, which we might talk about in custom flows. But for the purpose of this follow along, we're just going to choose Terraform to keep it simple. There are some advanced options like the version, retry, SSH key. We're just going to go ahead and go to next. And we're going to use GitHub as our version control system. We're going to go ahead and say all repositories. We can even select the individual one if we want to, but I'm going to say all just in case we do other follow-alongs. I don't want to have to go back and individually select them. Here we're going to go down below and select a repository. We're going to select our branch here in a moment. And the Terraform folder is just going to be the default here. We want to use AWS as a provider, and so I'm going to say M0 or credential name, AWS credentials. Doesn't matter what you name it. It's not a big deal. Just call it AWS. We are going to use an assume role. And so we need a role ARN and an external ID. So in order to set this up, M0 does have instructions for it. I don't like doing it this way. I actually wrote my own CloudFormation template. It's not bad. I just find it a bit cumbersome. Let's see if we can find it here. We'll say M0 AWS. So we go here. Actually, I'll go back. No, I think this is it. Yeah, so, well, let's go back here. Say assume role. Here's the instructions. Oh, look, my template's in here. So I actually suggested for a CloudFormation template because I found it a bit easier, but you can walk through here and do it each step here. So create a role, add the trust identity. The important thing to note is that we are adding env0's account. So this is their AWS account to this because that's what we need to grant. And the other thing is the external ID, which is kind of like a little password. So this is my CloudFormation template. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we're going to make our way back over to the main TF. I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to just call it M0 assume role. And this will be YAML. We don't have to commit this file to our code base because we're just doing this one off here. And so just looking at this really simple, of course, we're doing Terraform, but now we're doing CloudFormation. There's nothing wrong with mixing CloudFormation Terraform, especially if you're just setting up very simple roles. Because you might want those managed by CloudFormation, but your primary infrastructure by Terraform. It's just up to you. But over here, you can see we have an assume role. It's going to have M0's AWS account number, and then down below we have the external ID, which we're going to pass in. So that's supposed to be unique. And so what we'll do is go back over to the documentation here. If we scroll a little bit down here, we have this AWS CloudFormation deploy. That's why we set up the AWS CLI on here. Because we don't really need the CLI because other than this one role that we're setting up here, we are giving the assume role to M0 in order to do that stuff, but we are doing it here in this case. So here we say AWS CloudFormation deploy. The stack name is going to be called assume role M0. That is the path to the file. Actually, it's named a bit different here. This one's assume role M0, and I did M0 assume role. So we'll just flip that around there, make our lives a little bit easier. And then we have our external ID. So I'm just going to say M0 assume role, and I'm just going to put a bunch of random numbers here. And the idea is that you don't want people to know what that is because it has to be kind of like a password. And so we'll hit enter here. And we'll make our way back over to AWS. Once you close this tab, you can't see these again, but I don't believe that we will need them, so it's totally okay. And I'm going to make my way over to CloudFormation. And from here, it will be deploying a new stack. And we'll go over to here. And in the output, we've set a couple of values. The assume role, ARN, and the external ID. These are the two things that M0 needs. So we'll go over to here. And we'll paste that on in. And we'll go grab this one as well. and we'll go paste that on in. And so these are the settings that should work. I'm just going to double check the numbers there. I think that's all I did there for the short numbers there. It seemed like I put a lot more in here. Oh, you know what? Let me just double check here. External ID M0432884. I mean, it looks different than what I have here. Reference external ID. Interesting. Okay, so, I mean, it says it's this one, but this is what I put in here. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll just try it out, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? So it's not that big of a deal. But I'll go back here and paste that in here. And we'll go here and paste that in here. I'm also just wondering if I had this before. Oh, you know what? The reason why it's wrong, because I already had this, because it was doing an update complete. So this is not the first time I ran this stack. So I'll go ahead and tear that down. That's the old one when I was doing the, when I was creating this follow along. So I'll just delete that. Sorry about that. For you, you don't have to delete anything. Everything will be fine for you. I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to go at head and hit up. And so this time it should actually have the correct thing that I said here. So give it a moment here. It's review in progress. And it should automatically deploy. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. And we'll just have to wait here. It takes about less than a minute. So I'll see you back here in a moment, okay? All right, so less than a minute, it is done. And notice that it is now setting it correctly. If it doesn't say that it's created yet, just give it a hard refresh there or hit the refresh button because sometimes the UI does not update. So what we'll do, it should be named the same, but we'll just grab it just to make sure it is the same. And we'll go back over here and we'll grab our external ID and we'll paste it in down below and we'll go ahead and hit next. And from here, we could load in Terraform variables, environment variables. There's nothing for us to do for this one because it's very simple. I'm gonna go ahead and hit next. And then we have our environment name and our workspace name. As far as I remember, the workspace is like your workspace. So here it might make sense to type in Andrew, because normally you do like production, development, and you can have those environments, right? But you also have workspaces for users. And so I'm just gonna assume this is my workspace for me. And maybe there's a different pipeline for production. And it will randomize the environment name. You can leave it alone, keep it the same, it's up to you. And we'll go ahead and just go done. And even though this error happens, sometimes this happens. I think it's because I hit twice. I didn't wait for it to finish. It actually did work. And we'll go ahead and hit start using M0. And that will set us up a new pipeline. So just give a moment here for that page to load. All right, so after waiting, I don't know, about a minute, it looks like our pipeline ran. We have some errors here, and I think it's totally my mistake for typing something wrong. But you can see it goes through it as a git clone, so it copies the repository, it gets the working directory, and you can expand all this stuff to see what it's doing. Notice it's loading the M0 YAML file, which we did not have to create, but that's where we'll get more configuration. It will load variables, so we can see what it's setting for here. Then it's setting up the Terraform version, it's doing a Terraform init, and that's where we're running into issues. So really what we should have done is done a Terraform init before we did anything else. I'm sure we'll get the same error here. And so the big problem here is our Terraform block is not supposed to have everything in it, right? So what I'll do here is just go ahead and hit enter here, and we'll just fix that like that. And we will fix the indentation, and that should fix the issue. Go back up here, Terraform init. Unsupported argument tag, it's supposed to be tags. And also this is supposed to be inside the resource. So that's what I get for typing something out blindly. Normally, you know, when I write Terraform code, I'm always grabbing from the documentation so that I reduce my mistakes, but that's just what was happening here. So this initialized no problem, so that's really good. We'll go over here. I don't want the Terraform lock file. I don't think I do. So I'm gonna make a new new ignore here, and I'm just going to put in .terraform lock HCL. So we'll go and do that, and we'll hit up, add ignore file. Do we want to add the Terraform directory? No. So I'm gonna do Terraform here as well. And there we go. So now it's nice and clean. So we'll add the ignore file. Ignore the Terraform directory. Okay. And we'll just commit this code here. And it's important that we commit the code. And by the way, every time we commit, it's probably triggering the pipeline here. I didn't even think about that. So if we go up the top here, I mean, it should be triggering, right? And we'll refresh the environment. Is it deploying right now? Let me just go back here. Nope, not yet. So it might be just because we had a failed deploy, so it's not going to attempt another deploy. But what we'll do is go ahead and just commit this file. So, or commit our files. We don't need this assume role, but I'm going to just commit it anyway. So update our code. And we'll say okay. We'll just double check to make sure the stuff has been committed. And we'll go back over to here. And we'll go and, oh, we don't have to do anything. So yeah, it's going to auto trigger the deploy. And that's the whole benefit of having a system like this. Again, Terraform Cloud can do this, but there's more flexibility in env0, especially if you're an enterprise and you're using more than one type of version control system, and you just need more organizational structures. In most places, if you have quite a few employees, more than a couple DevOps people, then it's something that you'll definitely want to have. But we'll give it a moment there to finish the deploy. And once it's done, we will verify that it's created the stuff, okay? Okay, after waiting a couple of minutes, our deploy is complete. So here it says, well, actually, we just have to approve it. Sorry, it's not completely done, but we'll go ahead and approve that. Of course, when we were setting up this workflow, we had the option to auto-approve it. But from there, it will continue on and deploy. But notice down below here, we got a cost estimation. If this is not showing up for you or you're not getting detailed information, you do have to set up cost estimation calculation. And that depends on you turning on some stuff in your AWS account. Let's go ahead and just take a look there. Let's just say cost optimization or cost env0. I'm just trying to find the documentation. Setting up AWS cost with env0. So down below, we already have this, but here it says enable user-defined cost allocation tags. So cost allocation tags are additional tags that you can put on your resources, and you have to manually set that up. So it says add the tags called env0 environment ID, env0 project ID to some resources in your AWS account. So that's something we should go check out. So let's go back to AWS. And I might have to switch into my root account to do this because it is talking about cost stuff. And so I'm just going to flip back over here. It says go to the billing services under billing and management. So I'm going to go to my billing dashboard. Hopefully I don't show my address here by accident. And then what else do we want to do? We'll go back over to here. And it says on the left-hand side menu on cost allocation tags. So cost allocation tags here. And these are managed by the payer account level. So it's access denied because you do have to be in your root account. And I can go log into the root account, but it's the payer account. So it's not just this one. It's like your absolute root account for that. So I'll have to go log into that. That's not a big deal. So what I'll do is I'll just go and log into this. I'll be back here in 2 seconds, okay? All right, so I'm logged into my root account here. And so here on the cost allocation tags, you can see there are user-defined cost allocation tags. And then we have AWS generated allocation costs. So maybe I haven't even set this up in my account. If we haven't, this is a great opportunity for us to do it. But if we're getting information without even having to set up tags, that's really nice as well. So under user-defined cost allocation tags section, check the checkboxes for env0 environment ID. Okay, but I don't see them as of yet. So let me just double check here. So add the tags called to some resource in your AWS account. Make sure that you add the tags to a resource that has some cost to it. So it wants us to add the tags. So if we go back over to our main TF here, we should be able to assign some tags. So we'll go back and see what it wants. So it says env0 environment ID and project ID. Okay, so we'll go back over here. And we will go grab the other one, if I can go find it. Clicking around like a maniac here. And we will then go paste that on in here. Now, I don't know if this is the best practice, putting the tags here, but this is what I'm going to do because I'm just trying to get more cost allocation on there. And let's go find out our environment. So this is our environment right now. Yours is obviously going to be different, so don't put the same value in here that I'm putting in here. And we need a project ID. So I know that I named it my name, so it's just called Andrew. And if we go back over here, oh no, this is not called, this is not called Andrew, it's called my first project because there was workspaces. I'm just getting mixed up. So we'll go over here and we'll paste that on in there. And so those should set those environment variables. I'm going to go ahead and add that file. And we'll say add cost tags. And we will sync those changes. It's so nice not having to you know, type in Terraform init, Terraform anything. So we'll go back over to here. And env0, this is where we want to be, not GitHub. And if we go back to our project here, oops, back here, into here, deploy in progress. So we're just going to wait here because we will have to approve it. There is a way to apply auto approve. We'll go to settings. We'll just say auto approve the plan. I'm not sure if it'll take effect during this deploy, but it probably will work next deploy. We'll go back to our resources here. Or sorry, deployment logs. And I'm just wondering if I need to approve this one. It says waiting for my approval. There we go, so I'll approve it. So I guess the next deploy, we won't have to approve it anymore. I'm just taking a look here of what it's changed. So here you can see it's applying those tags. I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't add like any weird spaces or anything. That looks correct to me. And I believe we were done. I'm just going to the resource tab, see if any resources show up here. Oh, it failed. Okay. So we'll go here. Line 16, my server, invalid AMI. Oh, right. We never set up those values, so there's no way this worked before. Okay, so what we'll do is go back over here, and I said that we would go grab that AMI. So what we'll do is go up here to EC2. And we want to make sure we're in US East 1, that is North Virginia. And I'm going to go ahead and go to launching an instance because I just want to go ahead and grab that AMI. And if we go down below here, this is the AMI that I want. So I'm going to do Amazon Linux 2. And we'll go back over to here. I'm just going to update the AMI. And we'll just say, fix our AMI. Of course, hard coding these is not the best way of doing it, but we're trying to keep it simple because I want us to focus on learning env0 and not focusing on Terraform per se. So we'll go back over here, just make sure our changes have been committed. They have been. And this time around, when it deploys, we shouldn't have to do anything. So it is in progress. Here it goes. And so I just want to observe that we do not have to accept the plan, that it'll just automatically do it for us. Great, so after a short little wait here, it looks like the deploy is now successful. So we are in better shape this time around. If we go to resources, and that now makes sense why we didn't say anything before because it had failed. And let's go take a look if those tags were applied. I'm sure they were, but let's just go do a sanity check for fun. And we'll make our way over to EC2. I might already have an existing Terraform virtual machine running here that I forgot to terminate. This must be the old one. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear this one down. Of course, you don't have to do any of that because you'll just have one image here, but we will go over to terminate and we'll just say terminate. And so this is our new server. I'm going to just scroll up here for a moment and we are taking a look at tags. So here our tags are properly set. And we'll make our way over to our billing management. We'll go to cost allocation tags. Oops, in our other account. I'm not sure if these are going to show up right away, but I guess we'll find out right now if they do. And, well, I guess there's lots here. So we'll just type in env0. Actually, what are we supposed to type? Let's go double check that. Yep. So it's possible that the tags aren't showing up here just yet because they have yet to propagate. So not a big deal. I'm not too worried about it, but you know, they're not showing up here right away. But you know, it's not too complicated to get all that stuff set up. But as you can see, I'm getting information, so that's pretty good for me. Now, in terms of tearing this all down, I believe we could just hit destroy. So it says, you're about to destroy the environment for ECS environment. Are you sure? I'm going to say, approve the plan automatically and we'll destroy this environment. And we'll just give it a moment there. And so what I want to do is just go back over to AWS. I just want to confirm that's being destroyed. So I'll go ahead and hit the refresh here. It might take a little bit of time for that to kick in because we're waiting for this to happen. Yeah, we can see Terraform destroy down here. So it is going with no problems here so far. Give that a nice refresh. The instance is gone. Looks like it's going to delete the workspace, and then we have store working directory. So I'm pretty confident that is working currently, but you know, that is pretty much the easiest way to get set up for env0. But there's other cool things about env0. It has drift detection. It's just the way that you can structure things with organizations, with environments, with workspaces that makes it a lot more powerful. And the fact that you can deploy other than just Terraform. So, you know, in terms of cost, I think it's comparable to Terraform Cloud, but it's the fact that it just does a lot more. So for me, I would personally go with this, but it's really up to you and your requirements for your projects. There's definitely more that we can take a look at here. This is just looking at the most basic stuff in env0. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one, okay?